Welcome to Recruit Me. On today's podcast, we have Daniela De Abreu. Daniela is a human resources specialist who enjoys assisting leaders and talented professionals to improve the work environment worldwide. She has lived in Venezuela, Colombia, Florida, Maryland, Portugal. My goodness, she is all over the map. So she really brings to us a wide variety of feedback and tips and tricks and just experiences. So I cannot wait to talk with her more today. Welcome, Daniela.
Thank you so much, Katerina. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
So nice to have you. And I know we spoke a couple weeks back. I had the pleasure of being on your podcast, and it was a wonderful time. So I hope to just dive in more into additional things and get our listeners to know a little bit more about you. So without further ado, if we could kick it off with just knowing more about you, more about your background, and what you're up to right now.
Yes, absolutely. So, as you explained, I'm happy that you got that. Like, I've been traveling a little bit all over the place. And in those travels and trips, I studied in the US. So, I did a bachelor's in psychology at UCF at the University of Central Florida. And then there, I had my first job as an HR assistant for a staffing agency. I studied psychology, but I knew I wanted to go into human resources. That's what I was passionate about from the beginning. So psychology gave me a good background on people, how to understand people, and that was great. But after my first job, I went to Colombia, where I studied a specialization in human resources management to understand more, the theory and practice what to do and how, best practices. And after that, I settled in Portugal. And the last 5 years, I was living in Portugal, and my whole experience was always in HR. I was an IT recruiter, then I was an HR admin, but also contact for London, another bank, global bank. And after that, I was in a startup doing the whole HR process. So understanding the performance review for the teams and also helping the CEO with some contract and policies that we needed to put in place, doing more recruitment as well, a little bit of everything. That was a fun project. And most recently, I moved to the Netherlands. I'm in Rotterdam right now. I wanted a new adventure going also out of my comfort zone again. And I'm going to start a new job in a couple of weeks as an HR assistant and a strategic role. I will be with it's a small team. It's just the HR director and the admin, HR admin. I'll be helping the team. It's just 200 people. It's a logistics company. So I'm excited for that new adventure.
Very exciting. What drives you to, keep taking on these new adventures and just being all over the map? What's driving that?
I think it's my way to stay out of my comfort zone. I think that every time I stay in my comfort zone, it's like, okay, this is too comfy now. Like I'm used to this. I already know how to do this. I need something new and a new experience. I think I'm always driven for that, to learn more and to understand different cultures. It's just contributing that, and I think I also take different things I learn from different countries to these new places. So that's globalization, where you can be learning and giving and everywhere. That's my main drive for sure.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yes.
Well, you have a podcast, like I mentioned, the Human Capital Life Cycle. What is the message of that podcast, and what are you putting out into the world? And for those that don't know, Danielle and I met through Instagram, and ironically enough, we have that Portuguese connection. So it was nice to connect with someone who was out there at the time, and I know I was able to be on the podcast, and it's a great podcast as well as your following, your Instagram, your social media. But what is the message that your listeners are hopefully receiving?
Yeah, the main message with that podcast is to bring out the best of the capital we all have. Because sometimes we don't understand as humans. We don't know. It's like, well, is this my career? Am I my career? Am I my heritage, my race or background? As you said, like Portuguese background. Who am I? And then in this capital, I really wanted to, in this podcast, I really wanted to focus on the whole life cycle. That's why I call that in the in people, but specifically in the workplace, because sometimes we see them as different things. Like personal life is one thing and work life is another thing, but sometimes we also need to mix them, and because we are one person. So with this podcast, I said, well, why don't I talk about what people can be knowing and understanding better of their whole life cycle, but specifically in the work life. So anything from how to do your CV, how to improve interviews, how to get better with performance reviews, or for leaders, how to be more mindful in the workplace. And having people like you come in and share their knowledge is also great, because I think in collaboration we grow. And with your podcast, it was productive teams. So understanding, okay, how can we be more productive? And that's the main goal, to empower that capital we all have as humans.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're doing just that. I think the podcast is amazing. And I think it's really great to hone in and almost kind of connects with Recruit Me in a sense of putting your capital out there, putting your best foot forward, and that whole life cycle aspect of that. It's really for an entire lifespan that you have to make sure you're continuing to do that. So what advice would you give to someone right now looking for a job? You just found one, which is fantastic. You just had this crazy move, whether someone's moving, whether someone's changing careers, there's so many layoffs happening right now as well. What's that main piece of advice that you would say, make sure you do this?
Yeah, the first thing is to be very clear about what you want as a result. So that's going to help you in that search, in those changes, because having a clear image of, okay, I want to go into this industry, or I want to go into this role, is going to really help. Of course, then the whole process of preparation also is very important. Having your LinkedIn profile updated, having your CV updated and very clear and neat, having prepare for the interview, going into the interview. If you're looking for a job, going into the interview, also prepare, and talking to your network. I think once you're looking for a job, everyone you meet should know this, sharing this with no shame, with no guilt, just, sharing this, depending on the situation. Of course, you're a recent graduate, everyone is expecting you to be looking for a new job. But if you have been in the same company for 10 years, you may not know who to talk to and what to say. But I would say, yeah, preparation is key, and also clarity on what it is that you want as a result of the search.
And I think that can be really difficult for people, because I think sometimes, depending on where you're leaving or where you're looking to go, having clarity, I mean, amazing point, but it's hard. Have you ever found in your changes, or as your trajectory has gone on with your career, moments where your clarity got hazy and you had to think to yourself, is this what I want? And kind of how did you work through that?
When I didn't know, I think the first job in Portugal was one where I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted to continue with HR, human resources, but I didn't know, okay, do I want to go into learning and development, or more recruitment? So being open there really helped me to, well, I'm new in this country. I don't have 10 years of experience. So being open to listening to the offers, and listening to the managers interviewing me in the process. Studying a little bit the market also helped. So understanding where the trends were, if I wanted to stay longer in that field, helped me a little bit. IT was a big industry, like growing industry back then, 2018. So I took a look at those things, but at the same time, I was open to just any offering, and I went with my gut. So I was hired as an IT recruiter, and I had no idea what a Java developer was, what a software was. But they better me. They are like, well, English, this, so you have the attitude, so you do this. And I think that made the process a little bit more smooth and a bit easier. So that's one time I
No, that makes
remember.
sense. That's great feedback. Thank you for that. If someone's looking to change industries or change their career paths completely, right? Right now you're seeing so many layoffs. People are sort of, I guess, questioning everything. Not to mention that post-COVID, we had this great resignation and we had so many changes in industry. So Are you seeing that also then in Portugal, now in the Netherlands? I know you just got there, but are you seeing this? And then, is there different advice for someone looking to make a huge change? You yourself just hit the nail on the head of saying, you didn't know anything about Java writers and these things that that you're recruiting for, but it bettered you. It made you stronger in your career. So what advice can you give to someone specifically looking to completely make a change?
Yes, well, first of all, do some research. It is very important to understand where you're at. Okay, what industries are out there? What is the really interest you? Is it industries that are more innovative? Is it an industry that has been steady and like got through COVID like nothing? Studying helps a lot. Studying and reading, understanding. And also after that, after doing like an action plan, I have made a lot of changes like throughout my career, companies and countries, but I plan the change. I'm not like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna go.
Jump on a
Bye.
plane. Got
Yes, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. I really need to understand, okay, when am I leaving? Okay, start applying this. So in like a 2 month period, I'm gonna do this. So planning is really important. It would help a lot. So for instance, if you're changing industries and in this new industry there is a certification of a specific software needed, and then understanding, okay, go on Google, okay, what is the certification about? How long it's going to take me to do this? Maybe that's going to give you time while you're in your current job to study, get prepared for that certification before changing. And while you're doing the certification, you see, okay, this is really something I want. No, I don't feel like doing this. Am I going to be, talking to people that are already in the industry helps big, big time as well. Understanding what is their daily life like, what do they do? I think that helps big, big time, and also being open to new opportunities. It's really good that we have, I don't know, a graphic designer doing something in HR, because they bring a totally new way of thinking, ideas, and then you can only enrich the new industry. I think those changes are amazing. We should encourage them more and more, because there is greatness in the diversity that the industries and fields bring. So being open to that.
I could not agree more. And I love two things specifically that you said. I obviously love that because I think that there's such a stigma with just because you have experience in this career, this industry, you must stick with that. And it can be really scary and daunting when you decide to make that change, because when's the right time to make that change? Not to mention that knocking on doors that maybe people aren't going to be interested in allowing you in, but you hit the nail on the head again that it's going to shake things up. It's going to bring a new perspective. It's going to, really be able to foster maybe a new way of thinking. So I think 1,000%. And not to mention that you said talking with people in that industry. So if you're new to going to an industry and you don't know a lot about it, talking to someone in the industry, great advice. I hope that, our listeners definitely do that if they're looking to make a change. How should someone handle then a raise, a promotion, right? They're at their current company, they like what they're doing, but now maybe they've been there for a year, maybe they've been there for 2 years. It's time for maybe a review. It's time for a promotion. It's time for, something more. What's the best way that you would say as an HR professional, someone should approach a situation like that?
Yes, that is very important to look at the situation first. Like, don't jump into asking for that promotion or salary increase, because first, let's say the company is doing some layoff right now, or the company is a hiring freeze. So, what are your chances of really getting that salary increase if the company is going through this difficulty? So understanding that is very, very important, what the company is at, where the company is at right now, first thing. Then also studying again, research. I think this this word is going to come up
Absolutely.
because it's important, right? It's very important that we do our research to understand it based on your city, your country, your years of experience, your job title, what is the range of salary what that is out there in the market. So when you come to the person you will be asking this for, this is what is out there, so I would like this, not because it's a number that came up this morning and I woke up like I want to make this, but because the market is also making this, so I think I deserve it. And coming up with this is the time to brag about yourself. Really, this is the time where you don't want to say we did all this. No, but I was the one that implemented this system, and I was the one this is why you should, this is my data. You do want to make sure that you come with a case, so that the person that is going to make the decision is having these data driven decision making, because it's sustainable, and then they will see, yeah, there is proof in fact that you do deserve this raise for a reason. I think those are the main things to consider. And of course, don't underestimate having the good relationship with your boss, because of course they're going to be the one making the decision and putting in a good word for HR or whoever is going to make that decision as well.
Right. And I think with you talking about what you're bringing to the table and bragging about yourself, I would love to talk a little bit then on resumes. And on your resume, make sure you feature some of those things. You looking at constantly so many resumes, right? What do you suggest? How do you sort of brag about yourself on a resume? And how do you, instead of just saying, I oversaw 10 employees, what should be featured on there to brag so that then you're cut above the rest?
Good. In the resume, what you should write is some of the accomplishments you have done, in that you have, yes, overcome, or any problem you have overcome, resolved in the resume. Also, start with a powerful verb in the bullet points. Let's say you say, from this year until this year, I was working here. Start with, I don't know, supervised or empower, or a powerful verb that is going to right there states what you did. And then after that, describing what you did with a number of people. That's very important. Being specific. Also numbers. I don't know, you increase the productivity this percent. And having numbers is very good for that. Also, it will increase the credibility. And then when you are in an interview, of course, you can explain a little bit more. You don't have to, write a whole paragraph in the resume. That's not what's expected, but having in one sentence what you accomplish with numbers and specificity helps a lot.
Now, I always say try to keep your resume to one page. What is your opinion? Do you think definitely still one page? Can it be 2 pages? When's that moment where it can continue and grow into multiple pages? What's too much?
Yes, I think 3 is too much. I
Okay.
always advise 2.
Okay.
Depending on the years, of course, of experience. If you have 5 years of experience in one page, you can easily fit that. But it's like 10 years of experience is already, especially if the person has moved to different companies, it will be like 2 pages, I would say. None more than 2. When I have people ask me to review their CVs, the first thing I do, or the resume, the first thing I do is to summarize it, because they have 5 pages, 10 pages, and it's like, no, 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 no. Reading this nowadays, but it's mainly the people in the technical field that they feel like, I need to put this away, like they need to understand in every little detail. So helping them understand that, no, the maximum is 2. The rest, you have links on LinkedIn where you can put the projects. You have a space on LinkedIn where you can put ABC, and the interview is going to give you a space and room to do that as well, to explain. But that's my rule.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So you mentioned networking before. You mentioned LinkedIn. You mentioned networking. And I think networking obviously also ties into speaking to individuals and industries you're looking to go into. But why do you think networking is so important? What is it about this networking thing, right? This thing that everyone hears about. Why must we network?
The most, for me, it's fun. For instance, like I think it's fun to network. I think because I love to get to know different people, especially from different countries and cultures. Sharing those experiences is fun. When we hear a lot about networking and the benefits related to work, it's because when you open your network, is like I don't know, if you're cooking and you have all the ingredients and more ingredients than what you need, and then you can have fun and you can make these new recipes and you can be creative. So having a lot of people, you never know who is going to be interested in your work, in what you do, and you never know who is going to be useful and also good for you to know in the future. For instance, you're changing jobs and then you're talking to this person, right, that you got to know in this network, and then they can help you find a new job, or they know by reference that you are good at this and this. And it's very important for that, and it can also open the doors for you to be useful to them. So maybe they have an organization, they want you to come and volunteer somehow, so you can also go. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships, honestly. It's very important. I know this is hard for introverts, especially, that are not sure, okay, how am I going to go into this place where I don't know anybody, even though maybe it's within IT or HR in my field, but I don't really know what to talk about and how to approach these other people. But get out of your comfort zone. I would say my advice is
Just
get
get
out there.
out there.
Just get out there. And
Right. So then tying what we just talked about with resumes and kind of bridging the gap a little bit on some of the don'ts maybe or do's. How does a resume play into networking? If you're trying to network with someone, would you utilize a resume as something to send over? Like, you mess someone on LinkedIn, there's back and forth. Does a resume ever come into play? Like, is that a don't? Is that a definitely don't? Don't bog someone down with that. Could that be a do? What are some of those then do's and don'ts as it relates to networking and utilizing your resume, or just with your resume in general? That piece of paper that's, kind of your billboard that's going out there in a networking standpoint.
yes. The do's with your resume, well, that do keep it to 2 pages. Like, don't go over 2 pages with that. Have it very clear. All the experiences that you have had. A chronological order is better, like from the most recent one to the oldest one. That's also a must with the resume. And what you don't want to do is just talk about your work experience when you are networking. You don't want to bring up right away, should I send you my resume right after? It depends. Like, you can say what you're looking for, what your experience has been, very lightly, and also bouncing back and forth between some personal, depending on how deep you want to go. Of course, if you just met the person, of course, you're not going to say, well, this person died in my family, I don't know how many years ago. You don't want to go that deep, right? But having that mix, because not everyone likes to just talk about work, and they might think that you want something from them, just professionally. Yeah, so having that sense of mixing topics a little bit, having some common ground, talking about, I don't know, food, pets, cities, traveling, things that you can have, not going too controversial either, helps when it comes to that. And what you said about the LinkedIn, yes, I would say it depends how the conversation flows. If you're talking, I don't know, to a recruiter, of course, it's professional, sending your CV, or you can ask, do you mind if I do this before doing that? That's also very polite if you ask before sending it. And always send it on PDF. Don't do Word, because then the formatting is going to get very messy, and you won't be able to get it across as you want. Having your information there is also very important in your CV. What you should not do is to include information that maybe it's not important or relevant in the country where you're at. I think I know this because I've traveled to different countries, and sometimes for instance, in Colombia, it was okay to put your picture there. It was a must to put your picture and your age there.
And
And
your
in the
age.
US,
Wow, I'm
US,
taken aback. Crazy.
and in
Okay.
the US, you cannot do that. You're
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh
supposed
my
to.
gosh. What's your take then on people putting their pictures on their resume, now in the Netherlands or in Portugal or in the US? Is that something people should do? Because there's something for me, and I don't know if this is weird, but when I would print out that resume and then I have it on my desk and now I have this picture of this person on my desk, it's almost like there's like this like, this weirdness to me. I don't know, it always like was something that I didn't know how I felt about it. So what do you think then? I mean, Colombia, I'm so shocked, but everywhere
Yes.
else, I guess then, yes, no, do we do that? Do we not?
Yes, I would say avoid it.
Okay.
Avoid it because it's not necessary. It's not a requirement. If they want to see your picture, they can go on your YouTube, LinkedIn. They can, find it somehow if they really need to put a face to the name or whatever. But it's better not to. It really avoids any type of biases, discrimination, the same as age, the same as gender. It's always better to avoid, I'd say. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
So are there any other things that you've seen and learned, or like any other cultural or country differences that like this is okay, this is not okay, you should do this, or was that the big one?
That's a big one. That's a big one because it also shocked me because I was in the US and what I learned about HR was mainly in the US. And then when I went to Colombia, I'm like, what are they doing that? Even in the job descriptions, they would say, I'm looking for a man between 30 and 40 years old doing this. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
no.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yes,
In the
yes,
US, we don't even know, how to do it. That's crazy. It is crazy.
yes.
Wow.
So that's a big one. That's the only one. Other things that they should not do on their resume is grammatical errors, avoid them. Do a nice, copy paste on some, platform that's going to help you with the grammar because most people that are applying are already graduated at least high school, so try to avoid any type of grammar mistakes and never, never lie. Never, never lie because I have so many people that say friends, not clients, but like friends that say, well, Daniel, I can add this sentence. I didn't do this, but everyone lies when they're writing their resume. I'm like, no, no, that's not the idea you should have. No way, no, 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 no,
No
no. People
lie.
are gonna find out sooner or later. It's crazy writing. You got this degree, this how, or you were at this company doing ABC, and it's not real. It's not going to end up well at all. So those are the don'ts for sure.
Should you have, references at the bottom of a resume? Should that be a separate paper? Do you offer that up, or do you wait for them to ask for references? Same thing with cover letter. Should you always have a cover letter kind of ready to go and then tweak it? So references and cover letters, what's the take? What do we do with those?
With references, I would say always wait for the company to ask for them. Some companies do background check and they ask for them, some don't. So it's going to add to more like 3 or 4 pages resume because they are unnecessary in the beginning. If you want to fill in the space, you have half a page that is blank. You want to, okay, go ahead. Like, doesn't matter, but it's not necessary. And the cover letter, I would suggest, yes, have one ready. Don't send it right away with your resume. It depends on the I think it depends on the company. I know I was in Portugal. In Portugal, they didn't ask for cover letters that much. Here in the Netherlands, they have. So I had to create one here because I was like, okay, everyone is asking one, I must I must create one, but I didn't want to. I had to. And it depends. Yes, just understanding the cultural environment and needs. And in the US, they're very common too. So tweaking, you said you use the right word. Tweaking it's very important. You want to have one that is general, with like 3 or 4 main paragraphs, but then based on the job description and the company that you are applying into, if they request, then changing into making it more specific about why you want to be in that company and why that role, maybe a specific experience you have had that is very similar to what they are asking for, or any studies, that you have done or love about the industry or company or personal that you do want to add. That always adds some I don't know, inspiration or like for that person that is reading. So it's important.
So you can stand out. I love it. Love it. You've
Yeah.
mentioned professional satisfaction before. And I think just our listeners listening to you talk, you have a tremendous passion for obviously what you do. So how did you find professional satisfaction? Are you still working to find professional satisfaction? We don't reach it. It's just a continuation that we're always working towards. And what is that? What is professional satisfaction? How do you find this like pot of gold out there?
Yeah. Well, as you said, it's really hard to keep it, I think, like maintain that satisfaction because of course we're gonna have crappy days every now and then at work. We're gonna have amazing days at work. So how do we maintain it? It's another thing. But what it is, I think, is when we feel great in the workplace and doing what we do physically, mentally, and environmentally. So what we are doing, it's not so heavy physically. We don't feel like this, pain or the chair is not correct or something that could bring some type of physical pain. As a mentally, the burnout, how do we deal with this stress? What's the company demanding from us? And of course, environmentally, how the office space is, how are the people like in the office or at home? Do you have a nice space office at home where you can, feel comfortable, have plans or whatever, lights that is going to make you feel good. All of those things impact the job satisfaction, professional satisfaction. Now, how do we keep it? I think it's a lot about it has a lot to do with how we want to do this, how we want to stay satisfied or not, because sometimes I know the average right now for someone in one role or one company is like 2 years. The average is very low, compared to years ago where people would just average, I don't know, was 10 years or something. People would start in the company and retire from the same company. So nowadays it's shorter for globalization and all of these reasons. But I think one main reason is also job, professional satisfaction, how we feel in this role and how to keep it. Just I think for us as individuals, trying to stay active in our work. So bringing up new ideas, being innovative, talking to our colleagues, having a good relationship with the people that we work with. And for leaders and for companies is providing these resources, career development, so that the people stay satisfied. Satisfaction is very closely related with work performance. So if people are satisfied at work, they're going to perform well. If they're not satisfied, of course, the productivity and everything will drop. Understanding what are the characteristics of things like this, like leadership, career development, safety, psychological, and not in the workplace are factors that are very, very important to take a look at in order to maintain this.
Right. I think it's ironic that you said, plants and light, because here we are both, where we're sitting. I have a plant off to the side. You have a plant. We both have windows. So, at least
Yeah.
one step in the right direction then for that professional satisfaction. But I can't thank you enough for all that feedback as it relates to just making sure that your mental health, your physical health, the environment you're within, touching on the employers as well, because, companies, I think, sometimes struggle nowadays too to figure out how can we stop this burnout from happening. And do you see burnout happening as well? Matter you're traveling all over the place. You're everywhere. So is burnout a global thing, or is it more so really a US thing? Do you see it in Portugal? You just got to the Netherlands. Are you seeing it there already? Have you seen it in Colombia? This burnout.
I've seen it in Colombia. In Portugal, not so much. I think Europe has a very different way to see a work-life balance. Burnout occurs when the person has a lot of stress for work-related issues, right? Or maybe high demand or work under pressure all the time. So the US and Latin America looks up to the US a lot because, of course, they're in the same continent. So countries like Brazil, today I was talking to a client in Brazil. I'm helping her prepare for interviews. And she was telling me in Brazil, we see the same work culture as in the US.
Wow.
Because we look up to them. We see the modern things here because we look up to the US. So you transfer that work culture to Latin America, and you see in most places. That's why I saw it in Colombia. And so you see that, but Europe has a different way of looking at it. Here in the Netherlands, what I've noticed in very short period, not even a month, but what I've noticed is a very relaxed, very easygoing, let's do work today. If you have to go home and take care of your kids, go work there. For instance, I'm living in Rotterdam, and the city I applied for is in Amsterdam, the capital. It's an hour and a half by train from here. And I went to the interview there just to see, okay, what is this about? Let's see, be open to that. And when I told them, I do live in Rotterdam, so I want to know if I need to move here to, continue this role or no. And they said right there, like, okay, let me think about it. Well, maybe you can work one day here, and then you work 3 days in our office in Rotterdam, and one day from home. What do you think? So it was like right there, let's negotiate. Let's negotiate what works best for you. Where do you want to work with? Okay, you can just have, because it's going to be a long drive. And I said, yeah, and I don't want to move to Amsterdam. And they said, well, let's figure this out. Like, great. It's so flexible. And I don't think I've never seen that or heard of that in the US or in Colombia. So I think it's a difference. And that's, of course, how you see burnout being relevant or not in the day-to-day. Also, Europe has a very active social life. So people after work go for drinks and see each other, or they have a big connection with families. It's something else that also helps with the burnout and how people feel. Other cultures are more individualistic, so they stay just for the work and work life very separated. So that has been my experience.
Gotcha. So we're going to insert a disclaimer here saying, Recruit Me is not responsible for anyone quitting and moving to the Netherlands so that they can have this amazing life balance. But employers, let's all do better. Let's do better. Let's care. Let's listen, and let's try and make things work for a potential employee. That also speaks volumes to you, because I'm sure they saw in front of them how amazing person you are, and like, we have to get her. We just have to hire her. We have to.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
This has been fantastic. This, I think, has given a lot of great feedback for our listeners, tips and tricks, a different mindset as well. So I cannot thank you enough. But most importantly, this term Recruit Me, and I think you talking about human capital and the life cycle, I think it really plays hand in hand. So recruit me, right? And recruiting yourself, putting yourself out there. What does that mean for you? How do you do that every day?
I think I'm authentic. Authenticity comes out very easily in the sense that you connect faster with people. So for me, when I say recruit me, and this interview was so funny, the one I got, because I was going up the stairs to the office where they were going to interview me, and there were people coming down the stairs, and I was saying hi and smiling to every one of them, and one of them was the director, but I didn't know until I got to the office, and he came up and he said, you know what, you smile and you said hi. That's what we're looking in someone in human resources. We need to foster more the soft part, the smiling, the being good, like energetic. So it's just in the little things that we do from the moment they call us, from the moment we send that first email to someone. It's those little details, like having a nice weekend, a happy Monday, the little things that is going to make us stand out, as you said, and it's going to make them want to say, yes, you are the person I want to recruit and I want in my team.
Amazing. I cannot agree more. You are incredibly authentic, and that was a beautiful story. I think we all could live by that more often and smile and say hello. So that's, you never know who the person is you're smiling and saying hello to. So that's amazing that it worked out to be the director. So where can people find you? I'm obviously going to link everything within the episode on the YouTube channel so they can find you, but where should they go to? Do they go to LinkedIn? I know you have your Instagram.
Yes. Well, it depends on what type of information. Of course, if you want the to listen more to the podcast, it's on Spotify and it's on Apple Podcast, all type. It's called Human Capital Life Cycle, as you said. Then if you want on Instagram, I still haven't opened the TikTok account, but I'm gonna follow your example. You are everywhere.
Oh, goodness gracious. Don't follow my example. Do an even better job. You just today's day and age, you have to be doing everything. It's social media just consumes. It's a full-time job. Just
It is.
keep going.
It is. It is. So on Instagram only, you can find me Human Capital HR. It's just one word. And then on LinkedIn is my full name, Daniela De Abreu Rodriguez. Like in case Daniela De Abreu doesn't come up right away, you can add the Rodriguez and you will find me there as well. So yeah, I'm working on my YouTube channel as well. I have some information in Spanish, other in English, but you can also find me the channel at Human Capital HR, the same as the Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you now on my podcast. I was able to be on yours, so I'm so thankful that I was able to have you on mine as well. And I can't thank you enough. Thank you again.
No, thank you for having me, Katerina. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. I hope it was useful for your listeners as well.
I'm sure it was. Goodbye, everyone, and continue to recruit yourself every day.